So you think you like Lovecraft, huh? Well, what do you think about Lovecraft if it's done on a super indie budget? A very ambitious story done for very cheap. Well, I might have that movie for you. Let's check it out. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of H.P. Lovecraft's The Old Ones. This is a super indie budget film that is one of two movies. Apparently, there was another movie called The Deep Ones by the same director, Chad Farron, who wrote and directed The Deep Ones back in 2020. Now, one of the characters from there, Russel Marsh, is actually in this movie. I don't know that you need to see that movie. I didn't, so I'm just going to tell you up front that I saw this one first before I saw that one, and I haven't seen it yet, but maybe we'll do it in the future. Moving forward, what is H.P. Lovecraft's The Old Ones all about? Russel Marsh washes up on shore 93 years into the future from 1930, and he realizes that he was taken over by the Old Ones and possessed and forced to do some pretty heinous things on the earth. Fast forward into the future where he washes up, the whole world is distraught with creatures, old ones, you name it. H.P. Lovecraft. This is a very super indie budget, so you're going to have to lower your expectations. Understand that if you've ever seen a movie that was made by someone in their backyard, they used to call them SOVs, they still do, but they were shot on video. This has some of that spirit, even though this one is probably shot better than most of those types of films, but it still has that sort of get out there and do it spirit.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
And the practical effects in this movie are pretty damn interesting for a film that has so little of a budget. In fact, maybe that's where most of the money went. In either case, this is an ambitious film well beyond its means, like well beyond. And I find that admirable in some ways, whether you pull it off or not. This film feels a lot like a Zombieland movie where Woody Harrelson and, Columbus, basically Columbus and Tallahassee team up to fight Lovecraft. This Marsh guy and this young kid meet up and they team up to sort of fight off these creatures. They're trying to find a guy who can send them back in time to where they came from before all of these things went wrong. This movie has a ton of its own personal lore in it, how the sort of mechanics of the Lovecraft universe work, how people get possessed by the old ones, how to fight them, how to travel back in time. It's wild in an ambitious sense. Do they pull it off? Occasionally. There's some moments in the film where I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. There's practical effects, there's mass, there's creatures, these people freaking out. Everything I'd want to see in a H.P. Lovecraft film, I got to see, but is it well acted? Not the greatest acting I've seen, but what do you expect for a budget this small that's trying to do something so big? A $20-30 million budget to really make this thing pop off. Some people they do that with practical effects like Stuart Gordon has and Brian Usna and all these others. This is not going to be on that level, but it has some of that sort of spirit. So if you liked the movies by Stuart Gordon and Usna, this is going to be sort of in that direction, but with like a newer modern story with this old man and this young kid teaming up to fight and save the world. They do an okay job. It's not really that great of an acting position. They don't really make the jokes work in this film. It's supposed to be sort of this jokey and serious kind of film where like serious things are happening, but some of the masks are a little silly and some of the situations are silly and some of the gods they meet are really silly. Even the people who are possessed by the old ones are kind of silly too. So you're gonna have acting that is gonna be pretty average to terrible on that end, just being honest. This is that type of movie where you're gonna have to kind of expect that in a small budget. Characters who are possessed, by the way, or are part of the old ones, have really dark, messed up voices, which I appreciate. I think it's a smart idea to do if you're making a small indie budget like film like this, but it is hard to hear what they're saying because it's muffled and
gargled and distorted like this.
So I did have to put on the subtitles, which, you know, is not a good sign. And they do have loads of practical effects, gore, and masks and creatures and things that they do. They're a bit on the schlocky side. You're gonna have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but you know, ultimately this is gonna be a hard watch for some people, a lot of people who are not used to indie films like this. But I still liked it more than the movie that just came out called Gods of the Deep. That was more of like an action Lovecraft. This one's supposed to be sort of like a comedy, you know, like I said, it has that Zombieland vibe to it, but not really. Like those jokes kind of land a little bit more. And I'm not trying to be impolite by saying that. I have to be as honest as possible so that, you know, if somebody sees this movie and they're not happy, I would rather them watch the movie knowing this going in than to be upset and not like the movie. Very low expectations. You might actually enjoy this. Overall, I think it's better than Gods of the Deep, but not by much. And, you know, there are other films out there that have pulled off comedy a little bit better. One that comes to mind is The Last Lovecraft, which was a sort of a comedy film that was a very shoestring budget that I thought was fairly competent. But yeah, it's very much on that indie scale, so just be expecting that going in and you should be perfectly fine. It's out for rent now, so if you want to check it out, came out just a couple of days ago, so if you want to check it out, it's actually out right now for $1.99 on Amazon Prime, and you can even own it for $9.99 if you want. But $1.99 is really not that bad for a movie like this if you're willing to give it a go, I personally think. But just know you're not going into a movie seeing something Hereditary levels of awesome. You're not going to be seeing In the Mouth of Madness. You're going to be watching a very indie budget film. How many times can I say indie? If you've been drinking to each time, thank you for following along. But I did get this as a screener, and I thank you very much for letting me have this from Buzz. I would probably say that this movie is probably on an indie scale, okay? Like 4.5 to 4. It's around the same as the last one, Gods of the Deep. This has creatures, so it could be even higher for you. And if you remember, I gave that last one like a 3.5 or a 4, so this one's just slightly above it. Maybe you'll like the schlock. I think it's okay in this one more than the last one because the schlock is not taking itself too seriously. And because of that element, it makes this movie more watchable to me. But I just like to give them indies a little bit more of a sliding scale to give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt because they don't have as much money to fix the errors like bigger movies do. So I would love to hear what you think about this in the comments section down below. And if you want to check out more videos, hit the little bell notification and that should let you know when I got a new one out. Thank you guys so much for the support. We've got a lot of new people here, so thank you for coming and checking out this video. And let me know what you think. Are you gonna watch it? Are you gonna hold off on it? Do you like indie Lovecraft, or do you need it to be a certain bar in order for you to watch it? Let me know what you think. But thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the void.